is the strangest trick physics has ever played on me, and I want to watch it happen in slow motion because I still don't quite believe I fell for it. Ask physics the most solemn question you can think of, the big one, the sort that ought to come carved on a stone tablet. Why can energy never be created or destroyed? Go on, ask it in your grandest voice. And what comes back is not a commandment, it's a shrug.
It really is a shrug. You brace yourself for thunder, for something written in fire down the side of a mountain, and instead, the universe leans back and says, well, because it makes no difference what time you run the experiment. That's the whole answer. Do it today, do it 1,000 years from now, the laws come out the same. And from that one lazy little fact, energy conservation drops straight into your lap.
That cannot be the answer. It doesn't matter what time it is. That's not a law of nature. That's a man who's forgotten his own birthday. I asked why energy is sacred, why the books always balance to the last drop, and you're telling me the reason is the universe can't be bothered to keep a special clock.
That's the heart of it, and I promise you it isn't a dodge. Pull on that one thread, the universe not caring what time it is, and it doesn't stop at energy. Keep pulling, and it hands you where momentum comes from, and where spin comes from. And keep pulling further, past all of those. And it turns round and tells you where the forces themselves come from, where light comes from. All of it unspooling from a rule about not caring what time it is.
No, you don't get to say that and then just keep strolling. How does the universe is a bit vague about the date turn into a force, into light? Those are two different countries. One is a shrug and the other is the thing that holds atoms together and warms my face in the morning. You've drawn a line between them and I flatly refuse to believe the line is real.
Good. Refuse. Keep that refusal in your fist the whole night, because the walk from the shrug to the forces is the finest thing physics has ever done, and I don't want you handing it over cheap. I want you fighting me at every fence. So, first step. Before we can talk about what the universe doesn't care about, I have to tell you what that not caring is actually called.
One rule of the game first, so I know exactly where I'm standing before you start. Is this a single continuous road you're walking me down? The shrug at one end, the forces at the other, and every single step joined to the next one. Or is this the kind of trick where you get me comfortable halfway along, then quietly jump a chasm and shout, and therefore, light, and dare me not to notice the gap you leapt?
One continuous road, and not a single leap. You have my word on it. I'll lay every plank down in front of you and let you stamp on it hard before you trust any weight to it. And the very instant you catch me trying to jump a gap, you stop me dead and make me go back and build the missing piece before we take another step. That's the deal for the whole of tonight. No chasms, no and therefore. Just one plank after another, all the way down from a shrug to a force, and you get to test every one.
It has a name? This laziness has a technical term?
It has the deepest name in all of physics, and it's a word you already own. You've just been spending it on the wrong thing your whole life. The word is symmetry.
Symmetry. I know, that's butterflies. That's the two halves of a face, a snowflake, the fold down the middle of an ink blot where the left matches the right. What has a butterfly's wing got to do with the universe losing track of the time?
That's the wrong thing you've been spending it on. And it's a lovely wrong thing, so don't be ashamed of it. But set the butterfly down. In physics, the word means something stranger and far bigger, and here it is, as plainly as I can put it. A symmetry is when you change something, and the physics doesn't notice. That's the whole of it. You do something to your experiment, and nature simply fails to react. The not noticing is the symmetry.
The not noticing. So it isn't about the shape of a thing at all.
Not the shape of a thing, the behavior of the laws. And that's the split I need you to feel, because it's the one everybody trips on. A butterfly's wing is a symmetric object. Fold it over and the halves match. What I'm after is nothing to do with any object. It's a symmetry of the rules themselves, the rules not flinching when you shove the world around. Different animal entirely.
All right, I'll keep the two apart. But show me the rules not flinching, because in the abstract, I'll only nod along and secretly not follow you.
Fair. Take an experiment. Any experiment. A swinging pendulum, two balls knocking together, a candle burning down. Pick the whole lot up and slide it 10 miles to the east. Set it going again over there, identical in every part. Does it come out any different?
Of course not. Why on earth would it? Physics in the next county is the same physics.
And there, you just named a symmetry without meaning to. The laws didn't notice you moved. Now leave the bench where it is and run the same experiment tomorrow instead of today. Anything change?
No, same result. A pendulum swings the same on a Tuesday as on a Wednesday, I should hope.
Another one. The laws don't care which day. And the last, turn your whole apparatus round to face north instead of east. The entire bench swung about as a single piece. Same outcome?
Same outcome. This is almost insultingly obvious. Moving it, waiting a day, turning it round, naturally none of that changes the physics. You're reciting the 3 dullest facts in the world and dressing each one up as a grand discovery.
I know, and that's precisely what makes it a trick worth watching. Each one sounds like nothing, a shrug, a fact so dull you'd never trouble to write it down. And every single one of those shrugs is about to pay out a treasure you'd have sworn was the bedrock of the universe. Hold on to how humble they look right now. It's about to get enormous.
I want to name the thing you're circling because you keep personifying it, and I'm going to start doing it too. You're describing a universe that simply can't be bothered. No favorite time, no favorite place, no favorite direction to face. A magnificently indifferent landlord who never once checks which day it is or which way you're pointing.
That's the character of the whole night, so let's keep him. A landlord of grand, sublime indifference. Couldn't tell you the date, couldn't find you a special spot on the map if his life depended on it. And here's the joke the whole night is built on. That vast not caring is not sloppiness. It's the source of the sternest, most unbreakable laws we have. The indifference is where the iron rules come from.
Go on then, cash the shrugs. You keep promising treasure, let me actually see one come out.
Start with the one from the top of the night. The laws don't care when. You can run the experiment at any moment in all of history, and it behaves the same. That indifference to the clock is exactly and only what makes energy impossible to create or destroy. They're the same fact seen from two sides. No favorite moment in time, therefore energy is conserved. That is where the sacred law you asked me about is actually born.
Wait, say that join again and slower because you skated clean over the bit I don't believe. No favorite moment, therefore energy is conserved. Those are still two unrelated sentences you've handcuffed together and dared me to complain about.
Then let me put the handcuff where you can see it. Suppose the laws did have a favorite time. Suppose gravity pulled a touch harder on Mondays than on the rest of the week. Then you could set a heavy weight rolling downhill on Monday, let that stronger pull do extra work for you, and cash it back out on Tuesday when things had gone slack again. Free energy, milked straight out of the calendar, round and round forever.
A perpetual racket, running on the difference between the strong days and the weak ones. And the one thing that kills it stone dead is the days all being alike.
The one thing. Take that swindle away, insist there's no favorite day to run it against, and what's left standing there, quietly, is energy conservation. The law is nothing but the closed loophole wearing a robe.
Oh, so the constancy of energy isn't some commandment handed down separately. It's the universe slamming a door shut. If any moment were special, I could run the racket between the good times and the bad. And energy stays put precisely because there's no good time to run it against.
You've got it. And now watch the same move happen twice more, because it was never a one-off. The laws don't care where. Physics in the next county is the same physics, remember. That indifference to place hands you momentum. No favourite spot anywhere in space. Therefore, momentum is conserved.
And I'll bet the same swindle sits underneath it. If somewhere out there were a special place, a magic patch of ground where the rules ran richer, I could set up a racket between that patch and the dull ground next to it.
Straight into free energy again, shuttling between the special place and the ordinary one. So the universe forbids the special place. No magic patch anywhere, every spot as good as every other. And the price of forbidding it is that momentum has to balance. The recoil that kicks a gun into your shoulder, the shove that keeps a rolling ball rolling, that's the universe having no preferred address, paid out in full.
And the third one, the turning. Let me try to run it myself before you do, and you can catch me if I fall.
Please, run it.
The laws don't care which way I'm turned. There's no special direction the universe secretly prefers. No cosmic north that the rules lean toward. So if I face my experiment east or north or straight up, it behaves the same. And by your pattern, that indifference must pay out its own treasure, the turning one, which is angular momentum, the stubbornness of a spinning thing.
Landed it clean. No favourite direction in space, therefore spin is conserved. Why a top stays upright instead of just toppling. Why a skater pulls her arms in and whirls faster. Why a planet keeps turning for its whole long life with nothing winding it. 3 shrugs, 3 treasures. The same move 3 times over.
Let me make certain I've not crossed the wires because I can feel how easy that would be to do. When gives you energy. Where gives you momentum. Which way, the turning, gives you angular momentum. Time, place, direction, energy, momentum, spin. Have I matched the pairs up right?
Matched exactly right. And don't let anyone shuffle them on you. Each shrug pays out its own particular treasure, and no others. And here's what should stop you dead. Back in your mechanics course, you learned those 3 conservation laws as 3 separate commandments. 3 different things to memorize in 3 different chapters as though they'd been handed down by 3 different gods. And they were never 3 things. They were one idea wearing 3 coats. The universe's indifference. To when and to where and to which way, paying out 3 times over.
One idea wearing 3 coats. That's the sort of sentence that sounds pretty until I ask whether anyone actually proved it. Did somebody prove this must always work? Or have you lined up 3 lucky coincidences and painted a pattern over the top of them?
Somebody proved it, and I want to say her name, because for far too long this got told as though it fell out of the sky, and it did not. It came out of one particular mind. A young mathematician named Emmy Noether. She proved a theorem, one of the deepest in all of physics, and she was a mathematician rather than a physicist, which somehow makes it lovelier still, that this pairing is a law in its own right. Every smooth symmetry of the laws, every last one of these indifferences, hands you a quantity that cannot change. Not sometimes, always.
Every one. So it isn't 3 treasures for 3 shrugs, it's a standing promise. Find me any way at all the universe doesn't care, and there'll be something that stays perfectly, immovably constant, hiding behind it.
That is the promise, exactly. Symmetry on the one side, a conserved quantity on the other, bolted together for good, and Emmy Noether is the one who forged the bolt. Before her, conservation of energy and the sameness of time were two facts sitting in different rooms. After her, they were the same fact, and nobody could ever pull them apart again.
And a quantity that cannot change. I want to be sure I'm hearing how strong that claim is, because a word like that slips past easily. Not usually holds. Not holds pretty well on a calm afternoon if nobody's looking too hard. Cannot. As in, there is no experiment ever, anywhere, run by anyone that will catch the thing so much as twitching.
As strong gets. So long as the symmetry behind it genuinely holds, the quantity is nailed to the floor of the universe. No drift, no slow leak, no quiet exception waiting in the wings for a day you're not watching. And here's the part that ties the whole knot tight. It runs the other way too. Bruise the symmetry, even slightly, even in some small forgotten corner, and the conserved quantity starts to slip by exactly that much. No more, no less. So the two aren't merely friends who travel together. They're welded. The steadiness of the treasure is the steadiness of the symmetry, measured out to the last drop.
And she was a mathematician, you keep stressing that. Why does that make it lovelier, as you say? Surely it'd be more impressive from a physicist.
The other way round. She wasn't chasing energy or momentum at all. She was after the deep shape of the thing, the structure. And out of that pure, almost abstract chase fell the beating heart of how physics works. She even had to fight simply to be allowed to teach, this woman who'd just handed physics one of its crown jewels. But that's a different kind of story, for a different night. Tonight she gets her name said out loud, and she gets the credit, because the whole rest of the season is about to stand squarely on her shoulders.
Then I'll not forget it. But there's a word you keep leaning your weight on, and I want to catch you on it before we go further. Every smooth. Symmetry. Why smooth? What goes wrong if it isn't?
There's the fine print. And it's the fine print that makes the theorem true, so I'm glad you snagged on it. Smooth means you can do the change by a little bit. Slide sideways by a mile, or an inch, or a hair, or a whisper of a hair. Any amount you fancy, dialed gently up from nothing. Wait a whole second, or half of one, or the blink of an eye. Turn by the tiniest angle you please. Those changes you can ease into, gradually, in degrees. And it is only those, the ones you can creep into a hair at a time, that pay out a conserved quantity.
As opposed to what? Give me a change I can't do a little bit of.
A mirror. Flip the whole world left for right. Swap your two hands over. There's no such thing as flipping a little. You either flip or you don't. All or nothing. No gentle in-between to creep through. That kind of symmetry is real, and it matters enormously, but it does not hand you a conserved quantity the way the smooth ones do. It's specifically the changes you can slide into by degrees that pay out a treasure. Noether's promise is about those, and only those.
So the smooth ones, the slidey, dial-it-up gently ones, are the special stock. Keep that in your pocket, you're telling me?
Keep it right in your pocket, because it comes back tonight, and it comes back hard. The whole final act turns on symmetries you can do by a little bit. Hold the smoothness close. For now, though, I want you standing somewhere uncomfortable, because we've built something, and I don't think you've noticed how much it cost you.
Go on then, make me uncomfortable. What did it cost me?
All season, all of it. You've treated the conservation laws as the ground floor, the bedrock. Energy in equals energy out. Only last week, we were so frantic not to let energy conservation fall that we conjured up an entire ghost of a particle rather than watch the books come up short.
The little neutral ghost, yes. We invented a whole particle out of thin air, on nothing but faith, purely to keep energy's books from failing to balance. That is how sacred we were holding the law. We'd sooner hallucinate a new inhabitant of the universe than let energy go missing.
And you were right to. But look what you did there. You treated energy conservation as the fixed point, the thing so certain that reality itself had to bend to keep it true. The last court of appeal. Nothing above it, nothing behind it,
Because that's what it is. The deepest thing we own. And now you've got that look, so I can feel you about to tell me it's nothing of the kind.
I'm telling you, it was never the ground floor at all. That's the inversion, and it's the vertigo of the whole night, so take it a step at a time. Energy conservation is not the deep thing, it's the shadow the deep thing casts. The deep thing is the symmetry, the world holding steady when you shift it through time. The conservation law is only that symmetry's receipt, its bookkeeping, the little docket it leaves behind so you can check the sums came out.
A receipt? You're calling the crown jewel a receipt?
A receipt for something grander standing behind it. The sameness of time is the purchase, energy conservation is the slip of paper it prints. And you've spent all season treasuring the slip of paper and never once turning it over to read what it was a receipt for.
So the laws I've trusted with my life all season, they've been getting their authority second-hand. They don't stand on their own 2 feet for a single moment. They're borrowing every last scrap of their power from the fact that the universe can't be troubled to have a favourite Tuesday.
Second-hand is the perfect word, and I love that it stings you. Every ounce of authority the conservation laws throw around, and they throw a great deal of it, is on loan. Loaned up from the symmetries underneath them. Knock the symmetry out, and the conservation law drops the same instant, because there was never anything holding it up but the symmetry in the first place.
That genuinely offends me, and I want to sit in the offence a moment. I've been bowing to these laws all season like they were royalty, and you're telling me they're stewards. They only rule because someone above them doesn't care to.
Stewards holding the throne for an absent king, and the absent king is the universe's own indifference. That's the whole of it. So let me take the flag you've been planting all season. The conservation laws are the bedrock, the thing with nothing underneath, and pull it straight out of the ground.
Wait, before you replant it. If the conservation laws turn out to be only stewards, does that make them any less true? Because a steward still runs the house. My energy books balanced all season, every single night. You're not about to tell me they secretly didn't, that I was fooling myself the whole time.
Not one grain less true. And that's the mercy tucked inside the vertigo, so take it as a comfort. Everything you cashed all season still holds to the very last drop. The books balanced then, they balance now, and they'll balance tomorrow. Nothing you learned gets unlearned tonight. All that changes is the why underneath it. You thought the law was true because it was the foundation, the thing with nothing beneath it. It turns out it's true because something deeper reaches up and makes it so. Same steady, reliable steward you trusted all along. You've simply been introduced, at last, to the king he's been answering to this whole time.
And put what in the hole?
A deeper flag. There is something underneath. There was the entire time, while you weren't looking. The symmetries are the bedrock. The conservation laws are what you see. The symmetries are what's true. And once you've turned that the right way up, once you see that the shadows fall from the symmetries and never the reverse, you're standing exactly where you need to be for the real trick of the night. Because up to now, I've been playing very, very fair with you.
Fair how? What have you been quietly keeping back this whole time?
Look again at every symmetry we've done tonight. When you slid the experiment 10 miles east, how much of it did you slide?
All of it, the whole bench, every atom, together. I picked the lot up in one piece and set it down over there.
The whole thing at once, in perfect lockstep. Every part shifted by the same amount, in the same direction, all of it agreeing. When you waited the day, the entire universe waited the day alongside you. When you turned to face north, you turned everything as one. Every symmetry we've cached tonight was done to the whole universe in a single, coordinated move. There's a word for that. Global. All together, everywhere, in agreement.
Global, as opposed to, I can hear you winding up to it, as opposed to some other way of going about it.
As opposed to local. And here comes the outrageous demand. So plant your feet. What if we refuse to move the whole universe in lockstep? What if we insist the symmetry holds separately, independently, at every single point in space? So you're free to make the change one way right here, and a completely different way a mile over there, and a third way entirely on the far side of the room, with no coordination between any of them. Every point its own boss, every place choosing purely for itself.
And why would anyone in their right mind demand such a thing? The global version worked beautifully. One tidy move to the whole universe, 3 treasures handed back. Why go hunting for trouble by giving every single point in space a mind of its own and permission to disagree with its neighbors?
2 reasons, and the second one is the entire future of physics, so I'll set the first down gently and lean my weight on the second. The first is plain honesty, a law that only works if the whole universe agrees in perfect lockstep, instantly, across every mile all at once, is quietly assuming that the far side of the cosmos can coordinate with right here in no time flat. And nothing in this world coordinates faster than light. So true independence, every point genuinely free, answering to no distant committee, is simply the more honest picture of how a universe could actually run. And the second reason, the one that's about to knock us both flat, is this. When you dare to demand that honesty, the universe pays you back in forces.
Hold on, give me something solid to make the choice about. Choosing for itself. Choosing what, exactly? When it was slide it sideways, I could picture the thing. What is it each point gets to pick, all on its own?
Fair. And here I have to hand you one honest picture to hold. Think of a quantity where only the differences ever matter, never the bare value. You've already met one, height above sea level. Where you plant the 0 is your own affair. Sea level, the valley floor, the doorstep, wherever suits, because only the drops from place to place are ever real. Lift every height in the world by 100 feet at once, and not one drop of water runs any differently. That freedom to reset the 0 everywhere together is a global symmetry.
Fine. 1 0. Reset everywhere at once, nothing stirs. That I can follow. That's the global version. The whole map lifted as a single sheet.
Now make it local. Let every town set its own 0, independently. This town calls the church floor 0. The next town, a mile off, measures from the river. A third takes the top of its own hill, each choosing freely, none of them so much as glancing at the others. Every place keeps its own private convention, and none of them agree with any other.
And now it's chaos, surely. The instant I walk from one town to the next, my heights lurch. I step over the parish boundary and suddenly everything's measured from the river instead of the church. Every number leaps, even though I've barely moved, and the actual ground hasn't shifted a hair. You can't do physics in a world where the numbers jump at every fence.
So, can the laws survive it? That's the whole question of the night, and I want your honest guess before I say a word. You've just felt the trouble in your gut. The numbers lurch at every boundary. So tell me, can a law of physics hold up when every point in space is free to pick its own private convention, with nobody coordinating a thing?
My gut says it falls to pieces. It has to. If every point is measuring from its own private 0 and none of them are speaking to each other, then nothing can be compared across any distance at all. And physics is nothing but comparing here to there. Take away the comparing and there's no physics left. So, no, it can't survive. Unless you're pausing at me like that, which means there's an unless coming, and I don't care for the look on your face.
There's an unless. And it's the most important word you'll hear all season.
Then, out with it. What in the world rescues the thing?
You're right that it falls apart. That part is true. The laws genuinely shatter the moment you let every point choose freely. But it can be saved. It can be saved if, and only if, you add something brand new to the world. A field. Something that lives in the space between the points, that reaches from each place to its neighbors and, at every boundary, knows precisely how much the two sides disagree, and quietly corrects for it.
A corrector, sitting in the gaps between the towns.
A connector. A translator posted on every road between every pair of towns, forever reconciling their private zeros so the physics comes out consistent, no matter how each one chose. You walk from the church town to the river town, and this thing meets you at the fence and does the sum for you. Adds back exactly the jump, so the world doesn't lurch as you cross.
So each town keeps its own private zero, blissfully ignorant of the next, and this new field runs along every road, quietly patching the seams, so the whole disagreeing patchwork still hangs together as one honest map.
That's it precisely. It lets local freedom and grand consistency both be true at the very same time. Every place its own boss, and yet nothing anywhere ever contradicts anything else. But now I can hear the objection loading in you, so throw it.
You're right, it's loaded, and here it comes. This is a touch convenient, isn't it? You had a problem, so you invented a fixer to paper over it. Oh, the numbers jump. Well, let's simply bolt on a magic translator that unjumps them. I could patch any hole in anything if you let me invent a bespoke gremlin to plug it. Where's the force in that? That's just tidy accounting with extra steps.
And that is the exact objection the whole night turns on. So listen close, because here is the shock. That connector is not something you may add. It is not optional. It is not a patch you bolt on if the fancy takes you. It is forced. The symmetry simply cannot hold locally without it. Demand that every point get its own freedom, and the universe hands you the bill. This new field springs into being whether you asked for it or not. You don't get a vote. The freedom requires the field.
Put that in the town language before I let myself believe it. The church zeros, the river zeros, the roads between. In that picture, in plain sight, where does the force actually show up? Point right at it.
On the roads, and nowhere else but the roads. Grant every town its own free zero, and the only way the whole map still hangs together as one honest thing is if something lives on every road between them, doing the reconciling every hour of every day. Take that something away, and the map stops meaning anything at all. The towns fly apart into private nonsense. So the roads themselves have to fill up with a new stuff, whose entire reason to exist is to hold the disagreeing towns together. And that stuff, strung along every road, reaching between every pair of points, forever patching their quarrels, that is the force. It isn't sitting in the towns. It lives in the gaps the freedom tore open.
Wait, forced? Not you're allowed to add it if it happens to help, but it must be there. There's no version of this world without it.
No version without it. The demand for local freedom and the existence of that field are one and the same fact. Say the first, and you have already said the second, whether you meant to or not. You cannot have the freedom without the field falling straight out of it, fully formed.
That's a very different thing from a convenient patch. A patch I choose. This you're saying I couldn't refuse if I tried.
You couldn't refuse it if you spent your whole life trying. And now let me tell you what the field actually turns out to be, in the one case that'll take the wind clean out of you. Remember the smooth symmetries, the slidey ones I told you to keep in your pocket? Here's where they come back. Make this local demand of the electron. Let every point in space set its own private zero for the electron's little quantum clock, the tiny hand it carries that turns as it travels, and let it be set independently at every point, no two obliged to agree.
The clock. the electron's little turning hand, where only differences in where it points can ever be measured. Its own sea level.
Its own sea level exactly, and now every point free to plant that zero wherever it likes. Demand that, and the connector you are forced to conjure, the field that simply has to exist to reconcile all those disagreeing clocks, is electromagnetism. The field you had no choice but to invent is the photon, light itself, not assumed, not put in by hand, not something anyone decided the world ought to be furnished with. Required.
No, run that past me one more time, and slowly, because I think you've just told me something I'm not built to hear. You're saying light, actual light, the stuff that crosses the room, that carries the warmth of the sun all those millions of miles to my face, is here, exists at all, because the universe refuses to let two places disagree about a clock they never even had to share.
That is precisely what I'm saying. Every point insists on its own freedom. The universe insists, every bit as stubbornly, that they must all still agree in the end. And the only way to have both at once, total local freedom and total consistency, is for a field to exist that reaches between every pair of points and reconciles them. That field is electromagnetism. The photon is the price of local freedom, not a stand-in for it, not a cousin of it, but the very force itself, the actual light that leaves a star and crosses all that dark to land on the back of your eye. Every sunrise you have ever stood in is the universe quietly settling that bill and calling the receipt light. Reality is a fanatical stickler for consistency, and the forces are what its stickling costs.
I need to say the daft version out loud, just to be sure the thing is really in my hands. The lazy landlord from the top of the night, the one $2,000 to keep a favourite Tuesday, that same universe, when you zoom right down to every single point in space, turns into the pettiest, most obsessive little clerk imaginable. It will not permit this point and that point to disagree by so much as a hair. And light exists because of its pettiness.
You've got it, and I shall never be able to unhear the pettiest clerk imaginable. Lazy at the grand scale, no favourite time, no favourite place, no favourite way to face. Fanatical at the fine scale, no two points may disagree, not ever, not by a whisker. And the second one, the pettiness, is where the forces are born. The grand indifference and the local fanaticism are two faces of one strange creature, and between them they hand you the whole furniture of nature.
But I want to press exactly here, because it's slippery, and I don't want to be dazzled into nodding. There genuinely was no force before we made the demand, and there genuinely is one after. The force didn't come from any new stuff we sprinkled in. It came from a demand about consistency.
From nothing but the demand. You added no new ingredient, no new substance, no new law by hand. You changed one thing only. You insisted a freedom the electron already had be granted point by point instead of all at once. And that single change of grammar, global to local, dragged an entire force into existence to pay for it. The force is the cost of the demand. Nothing else went in.
A change of grammar, global to local. That's a change in how you say the thing, not a change in anything that's actually in the room. The electron is the same electron, and you're telling me a whole force fell out of nothing but the way you insisted the sentence be true.
Out of nothing but that. And I won't talk you down off the ledge of it, because you're meant to feel how much too much it is. The world gained no new ingredient. Nobody sprinkled in a force by hand. All that happened was a stricter demand got placed on a freedom the electron was already quietly carrying about with it. The demand that it be honoured point by point, rather than all in one grand move. And that strictness came with a bill, and the bill was a force, entire, photon and all. If it doesn't feel like an absurd amount of universe to get back for so tiny a change in the wording, then you haven't yet let yourself believe what just happened.
But that's the one force, electromagnetism. You've pulled off a gorgeous conjuring trick with the electron's clock, and out came light. Is that where it ends? One clever coincidence? Or are you about to tell me it isn't a coincidence at all?
It isn't a coincidence, not remotely. It's a method, and that is the thing that makes it enormous rather than merely cute. Change what the local freedom is about. Instead of the electron's simple clock, pick a richer sort of choice for each point to make on its own. A more elaborate freedom, more moving parts to it, and run the very same move. Demand it hold locally, point by point. And out falls a different connector, a different force carrier, another force forced into being the same way to pay for the same kind of freedom.
So the other forces from the season, the ones we spent whole nights on, you're telling me they all come from this. The same trick, a different freedom each time.
Every one of them. The strong force, the glue that traps the quarks inside every proton, the thing we wrestled with for a whole night. That's the connector forced by demanding a richer local freedom, the one the quarks happen to carry. The weak force behind the shapeshifter, the one that lets one kind of particle turn quietly into another local freedom, another forced connector. Each of these forces is the field the universe is compelled to invent so that some particular local freedom can hold everywhere at once, with nothing anywhere ever disagreeing.
So the differences between the forces, one glues, one shapeshifts, one just pushes charges about, that's down to the differences between the freedoms you demanded.
Down to nothing else. Pick a simple freedom, you get a simple force with a single weightless carrier, light. Pick a freedom with more moving parts, and the connector that falls out is busier, more tangled, and it behaves very differently. The character of each force is inherited straight from the character of the freedom that forced it. Change the demand, change the force.
Then let me ask the greedy question, the one you can see me forming. If richer freedoms hand you richer forces, is there a grandest freedom of them all? One single demand, made locally, that pays out every force at once, the whole set falling from one stroke of the same pen.
That's the dream, the oldest and most beautiful hope in the whole of the field. One master freedom, demanded point by point, that gives you all the forces together as different faces of a single, deeper thing. People have chased it for entire lifetimes, and here I owe you the honesty I promised at the start of the night, so nobody has closed their hand on it yet. We can force the forces out of hiding, one at a time, gorgeously, exactly as I've shown you. Braiding all of them back into one has stayed just past the ends of our fingers. So hold the dream loosely. It comes back near the end of the season, when we stop admiring the picture and start staring hard at what's still cracked in it.
So when you lined up the four forces earlier in the season, and I sat there thinking, right, 4 forces, that's just the inventory. That's just the stuff the world happens to contain, like there being 4 kinds of weather.
That's the picture I want to take gently out of your hands tonight. The forces are not the furniture. They are not 4 things the universe happened to be stocked with, 4 arbitrary features it could just as easily have done without. They are the price of letting every place in the universe keep its own freedom, and still, always, agree with every other place. Insist on local freedom, and forces are what you must pay for it. The light, the glue that traps the quarks, the shapeshifter that turns one kind of matter into another, each one bought at that very price. Gravity is the lone holdout. It looks for all the world as though it ought to fall out the same way, and yet no one has ever made it come quietly as the others did, a knot we keep for later. But every force we've unmasked tonight, the universe was forced to pay for.
Symmetry is where the forces come from.
Symmetry is where the forces come from. That one sentence is the spine of the whole season. Everything we've been climbing has been climbing toward it. Week by week, we named the forces, watched them push by hurling particles back and forth, watched them trap the quarks, watched them shapeshift matter from one kind into another. And underneath every one of them, the entire time, sat this single idea. Demand a symmetry locally, and a force is forced into being to pay for it. That is the deepest layer. That's the thing the season is named for. Everything above it, the particles, the pushes, the shape-shifting, the glue that traps the quarks. Those were the rooms of the house, each one furnished and lit. This is the ground the whole house is founded on. And the vertiginous part, the part I still don't quite get used to, is that the ground isn't some heavier, harder, more solid kind of stuff underneath the rest. It's an idea, a rule about the world staying the same when you move it. We dug down under all the matter in creation, looking for the bottom, and what we hit was a thought.
I've climbed the whole season, not knowing there was one idea under every step of it.
Under every step. Each force looked like its own separate story, with its own separate cast, and they were never separate at all. They were the same sentence told in different freedoms. That's why the season is called what it's called. We've been walking down toward this the entire time, and here it is.
Now I'm suspicious of how good this feels. It's too tidy by half. Every force tumbling out of one idea. That's exactly the sort of thing physicists tell each other after the fact, dressed up to look inevitable when it never was. Is this genuinely how anyone works? Or is it a bedtime story you tell once the sums are safely done?
It's a fair suspicion, and you were right to keep it loaded. Here's the honest answer. It's truly how the hunt works, not a story stitched on afterward. When physicists go looking for a new force, this is the move they actually make. Guess a symmetry. Propose some freedom the universe might be granting every point. Work out the connector it would be forced to conjure, the carrier it demands, and then go and look for that carrier in the world.
And that's turned up real things, not just paper.
Real things. The idea has called particles into the light before anyone had ever glimpsed them. The carrier read off the symmetry first, on nothing but the logic of it, and then found out in the world exactly where the logic said to look. That's not a summary you write at the end. That's a working instrument you point at the dark.
All right, that's more impressive, not less. But now I want the other side, because you've gone suspiciously triumphant, and you're the one who taught me to distrust that. Where does it stop? What does this not do?
Good. A knight this triumphant needs its honest edges, or it curdles. So here's what it does not do. It tells you that if the universe grants a certain local freedom, then a certain force must exist. But it does not tell you why the universe grants these particular freedoms and not others. Why these symmetries and not some entirely different set of them. On that, the principle is dead silent. That choice is simply handed to us from we don't know where. We read it off the world. We don't derive it.
So it explains the forces, given the symmetries. But the symmetries themselves it just finds sitting on the doorstep one morning, no note attached, no return address.
No note attached. We're handed the freedoms and told nothing about who chose them or why these. And there's more it stays quiet about. Real structure in the world that this idea, gorgeous as it is, doesn't reach all the way down to. There are cracks in the picture, and we'll spend a whole night staring into them before the season's out.
So it's not the theory of everything, it's not the final page.
It's not the final page. Let me be careful and not oversell you. This is the deepest organizing idea we have, the deepest single thought in physics. But it is not a theory of everything. It's a horizon, the furthest clean thing we can make out, not the whole of the map. A profound principle, honestly fenced in, and I'd rather you loved it for what it actually is than for something it isn't.
I can live with a horizon, But you've got that look again, the one that means there's a sting in the tail you've been keeping warm this whole time. What's the catch buried in all this beauty?
There's a catch, and it's a cruel one, and it's exactly where next week opens. Go back to the forced connector, the field that springs into being to reconcile the points. The very symmetry that conjures it also lays down a demand on it. It insists the connector be weightless, massless. It wants its force carrier to weigh precisely nothing at all.
Weightless. Like the photon, I suppose. Light weighs nothing, and it flies at, well, the speed of light. Nothing dragging on it to slow it down.
Like the photon exactly, weighs nothing, tears along at the very top speed the universe permits, because a thing that weighs nothing simply cannot go any slower. And for light, that's perfect. The photon is massless, and the symmetry is delighted with it. The two get along beautifully. But now lift your eyes and look round at the rest of the world.
Before I even look round, why does the symmetry insist on weightless in the first place? That strikes me as a very particular thing for something so lofty and grand to fuss about. What has a carrier's weight got to do with towns agreeing about a clock?
Here's the honest short of it, held right out at arm's length so we don't spill next week early. A mass, deep down, is a kind of stiffness, a reluctance, a drag that pins a thing in place and won't let it range out freely or fast. And the connector's one and only job was to reach easily between every pair of points, near ones and far ones alike, nimble and unresisting, so that no two towns anywhere could ever be left unreconciled. Now hang a weight on that connector, make it stiff, make it sluggish, and its reach falls short. It can no longer stretch all the way out to the far towns, and out there, past its reach, the reconciling quietly fails. So a symmetry that needs a connector reaching everywhere needs a connector that weighs nothing. Weight would throttle the very thing it was forced into being to do.
And the rest of the world is stuffed full of heavy things. Obviously, I'm heavy, you're heavy. The electron itself has a weight to it, tiny but real, and real is real. Things have mass. That's the most ordinary fact there is.
The most ordinary fact there is, and it's a scandal. Because the electron has weight, and worse, some of the force carriers themselves are heavy. Not weightless like the photon, not remotely. Downright hefty. The carriers of the weak force, the shapeshifter's own messengers, are among the heaviest particles we've ever laid hands on. And the symmetry that forced them into being swore blind they ought to weigh nothing whatsoever.
So the gorgeous idea has a hole punched clean through it, right where the whole season's been standing. The symmetry wants everything weightless. The world is plainly, stubbornly, undeniably heavy. Both cannot be true at once. Something has to give.
Something has to give, and here's the knife edge of it, the thing that makes it a real puzzle and not just an awkward fact. You cannot simply wave the symmetry away to let things be heavy, because the symmetry is the very thing that gave you the forces in the first place. Break it, and you lose the whole beautiful machine. The forces stop being forced, and the whole night collapses. So you can't keep the symmetry, and you can't do without it.
So you're trapped. Keep the symmetry, and everything must be weightless, which is false. Ditch the symmetry, and you lose the reason forces exist at all. There's no room left to stand.
No room. Which is exactly why it's the perfect question to end on. How does anything get mass at all without wrecking the symmetry that wants everything weightless? That's the corner we've painted ourselves into, and it's the corner next week climbs out of.
And you already know the way out? And you're going to make me wait a week for it?
I'm going to make you wait, but I'll hand you the shape of it now to sleep on. The answer isn't to break the symmetry, it's to fill all of space with something. A field lying everywhere, in every last corner of the universe that things have to move through. And it's the moving through that comes out feeling like weight, while the symmetry underneath stays perfectly, secretly, entirely intact. The whole of space quietly full to the brim, and that fullness is where mass has been hiding all along.
Space is full, not empty, full of something everywhere at once that drags on the world, and we've been calling the drag weight. And that's next week.
That's next week. The field that gives things their weight without breaking the beautiful symmetry that wants them weightless. It carries a name you've heard shouted about and never once had explained to you properly. But the last word tonight is yours. It always is. You came in wanting to know why energy can never be destroyed.
And I got a shrug for an answer. The universe doesn't care what time it is, and out of that not caring, the whole cathedral rose up in front of me. Energy, then momentum, then spin. 3 treasures out of 3 shrugs. And then, when you dared the not caring to hold at every single point on its own, the forces themselves came forced into being, light and all, just to keep the peace between places that never once had to agree. A young mathematician saw the first half of it and gave it a name, and I'll not forget her for it. I asked physics its most solemn question, and it shrugged at me. And the shrug turned out to be the deepest thing in the world. And I keep wanting to be cross about it, that the sternest laws in all creation and the light itself all trace back to a universe too grand to keep a calendar, and too fussy to let 2 neighbouring points fall a hair out of step. But I can't manage cross. It's the most beautiful set of books I've ever seen, nobody anywhere cheating, and every last column still balancing, all the way down to the floor. Next time, the field that gives things their weight, the Higgs.